This timeline tracks the CBSE's rollout for the new three-language policy. The board initially set the target for 2029, but a sudden mandate has just forced that timeline to snap backward to July 1, 2026. In April, an academic circular assured schools they had a multi-year grace period to adapt their curriculums and hire staff. Then came the May 15th mandate, overriding that advisory completely. The scope is immediate. This policy applies directly to the incoming Class 9 cohort starting their academic session on July 1st. By accelerating the timeline, the board rendered all previously approved 2026-27 school curriculum plans obsolete overnight. Schools are already 4 to 6 weeks into the current academic session. Implementing a new structural mandate midstream requires tearing up existing timetables and reallocating teaching staff who are already teaching classes. The May 15th circular carries the weight of a mandatory directive, legally binding administrators to the 2026 timeline regardless of their current progress. Administrators face an immediate operational deadline, June 30th, to register their newly configured curriculum framework on the OSS portal. To avoid regulatory failure, leadership teams have to immediately deconstruct the board's new rules and solve a strict compliance matrix. This diagram outlines the foundational structural requirement of the new curriculum, the R1, R2, and R3 mandatory language slots. Exactly 2 of these slots must be filled by native Indian languages. For most institutions, the standard medium of instruction is English, which occupies the R1 slot. Under the National Education Policy rules, English is strictly classified as a foreign language. By placing English in R1, the matrix's foreign language allowance is entirely exhausted. Analytical, this specific NEP classification constraint creates a severe bottleneck for English medium schools trying to navigate the new rules. This creates an immediate dilemma for schools that traditionally require students to learn European languages. As this animation demonstrates, trying to drop French, German, or Spanish into the remaining R2 or R3 slots triggers a compliance failure. These languages are pushed completely outside the core R1 through R3 matrix and relegated to a disconnected fourth language box. A student can still legally study French or German, but it contributes absolutely nothing to their core CBSE graduation requirements. Offering a fourth language drastically increases the timetable load and strains the school's teaching resources. Non-native foreign languages have been structurally downgraded from core academic pillars to optional extracurricular electives. Introducing a completely new native language to a Class 9 student mid-education presents a severe pedagogical problem. Take Sanskrit as the primary variable for mapping an R3 native language selection for a first-time learner. To prevent extreme academic overload, the board has calibrated the difficulty. This dial shows the Sanskrit R3 requirement rolling back from a Class 9 standard to a basic Class 6 level. As a stopgap measure, these students will utilize standard Class 6 textbooks until the board publishes specific introductory Class 9 materials. Students who have actively studied Sanskrit since Class 6 face a different reality. Their subject is locked in at R2 and maintains the standard Class 9 difficulty. This creates a strict bifurcation in testing protocols between the language slots. The R1 and R2 subjects retain their requirement for formal, standardized board examinations. The R3 subject is explicitly exempt from board exams and is assessed strictly via internal school rubrics. The board deliberately decoupled the R3 slot from examination pressure, specifically to engineer a feasible pathway for midstream compliance. While the core mandate is absolute, the board has carved out 3 highly specific legal exemptions. This decision tree maps the student population. The massive main trunk points directly to mandatory compliance for the vast majority. A thin branch splits off for children with special needs, gated by a requirement for authorized board certification. A second branch opens for official CBSE schools operating outside Indian borders. These overseas institutions can maintain localized foreign language models, like Arabic in the Middle East. The final branch isolates inbound international transfer students, tightly locked by a case-by-case approval requirement. Unless a student explicitly falls into one of these 3 narrow, documented categories, administrative compliance is inescapable. For school leadership teams, the focus must shift immediately back to the non-negotiable operational action. You must finalize and declare the specific R1, R2 and R3 language combination matrix for your institution. This digital interface shows the final step, uploading the new curriculum framework to the OSS portal before the June 30th deadline hits 0. For edge cases not explicitly mapped by the circular, the official CBSE helpline parameters offer the sole recourse. The multi-year grace period has been rescinded. Administrators must execute this logic matrix immediately to secure compliance by July.